With the Maple Leafs roster pretty much set and what we think Brad Treliving has kind of come to the end of what he can do before we go into the 2025-2026 season, there's kind of just some questions about who in the Maple Leafs system or current roster can make the leap and take over a spot and grab a hold of it and become a full-time NHL player. And one of those guys who everyone seems to have circled as could be the year, the guy who could take the step, could make the leap, could join the big club this year, is none other than Easton Cowan from the London Knights. He's a guy who's been at the top of the radar when it comes to trade potential, one of the top prospects in the Leafs system, and a guy who kind of has generated a lot of, let's say, buzz going into this year. Does he start with the Marlies? Does he start with the big club? Could he find his way out the door in a trade somewhere for another top six forward? And I thought it would be best for us to do a deep dive into who Easton Cowan is, what he could become, and if he could make the lineup this season. And I thought there was nobody better to bring on to help me break it all down than none other than Steven Ellis. Steven, I know that you've had a busy summer of breaking down prospects and watching showcases and stuff, so why not fill more of your time with talking about prospects?
Hey, why not? Why not? It's a guy I've seen, I would say, I don't know if I want to say too many times, but enough times the last couple of years.
Okay, so let's start with this. Let's go to the basic question, and you answer this however you want, but who or what is Easton Cowan? What type of player is this guy? Like, who has he been over the past few years based on the too many times that you've seen him play?
He's like, you see some of the same similarities that you see. So some of the same traits, I should say, that you see in Matthew Knies, that you see in Easton Cowan, the way that he's always trying to attack for pucks. Might not be the biggest guy out there, but he'll go out there and land some hits. He's very tenacious. When he's at his best, especially in the playoffs the last couple of years in the OHL, when he really wants the puck, he's going to take it off you because he's always chasing. He's got that speed to make it work, and he's got that offensive skill. And, it's very easy to look at Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs and say, first round exit, second round exit, year after year. The thing that Easton Cowan's been able to do now is he's been the star player for the London Knights, who've now won 2 OHL championships 2 years in a row. He was able to lead the playoffs in scoring in 2024, 2025. He was the MVP last year. Like, this is a guy that when he's at his best, he can be unstoppable. He's not going to be a massive point guy in the NHL. Like, I don't expect him to get 80 points in the NHL, but could he get you 65 points maybe and do these other things that make him very valuable, like go out there and be physical and go out there and play on the penalty kill? Yes, and that's where a lot of that value comes from. So I know myself, myself and many others were very shocked he was drafted where he was, but I think they were expecting him to get bigger. He did. He got physically bigger. They expected him to get better offensively. He did. And I feel like this has turned into be a really good pick for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay, so one of the things that you kind of mentioned there was about what you could potentially project his points to be, and I want to unpack that a little bit more and pry out of you to go a little bit further in it. We know for the most part what he has done in junior, and you just laid it out there pretty well, especially with some of the comparisons that you brought up about what he had done, players maybe that you could kind of see him emulating or kind of showing signs of being like. But what do you think Easton Cowan could be at the next level, at the pro level? He moves on from junior because, and more so what I'm getting at here is there's a lot of times you watch guys, and let's use a guy in the Leafs system, for example, Nick Robertson, they can light the world on fire when it comes to points at the junior level, but then maybe it doesn't translate the same way into the pros, and they have to adapt their game. They have to kind of transform who or what they are to make sure that they can hang into an NHL roster every day. In your opinion, what do you think Easton Cowan's professional career could look like? What type of player is he at the next level?
I think like a safe bet is a middle six winger. I think he could play on the top line. Like, you could put him on that right side if Michelli doesn't work out in the long run, and he's going to be able to handle playing with quality players, because when you play in London, you are surrounded by quality players the entire time. And I feel like the fact that he's at the World Juniors, you looked at him, he was very invisible, and I don't know if that was necessarily his fault, but that just didn't look like Easton Cowan playing at 100%. Where when you see him go back to London, he's chasing after every puck. He's going out there winning so many battles. He's only 5'11", but he plays more like he's 6'2" in the way that he goes out there and retrieves the pucks. And I think that alone is going to give him some opportunities. Like, look at Nick Robertson. I was never too high on him because it always felt like he was always too weak for the next level. But we don't see that with Cowan, who's only a little bit taller, but he's a much, much more stronger player overall. And I wouldn't say there's anything like average in his game either, or below average. Like I should say no. There's nothing really below average for him because I think he's an average skater. He's probably above average as a puck handler. He's got some good hockey sense. Maybe not the most dynamic player you're ever going to find, but he's able to handle his own there, and he's about as competitive as you are going to get. So you can go out there and put him on a line with someone like Austin Matthews where you expect him to score. And maybe it opens up some opportunities for Nyes to play a bit more of a finesse game. And you say to Cowan, okay, you're going to start the plays, but you're going to go out there and try and retrieve every single puck. And you need players like that. Maybe he falls down further in the lineup because he's not going to be a high-end goal scorer, and that's fine. Like, with the way the Leafs are constructed now and look to be the next couple of years, you have a lot of options for Easton Cowan. And I think that's good. He's very versatile on that aspect. He could be he could put up some points on the top line, but he can also be like one of the best third liners you're going to get too, right? I know that's very broad, but that's kind of what you're looking at here with Easton Cowan, where he's a support player on the first line. He could be maybe a bit more of a play driver on the second or third line, depending on who he's paired with, but he's got those options.
Okay, so let's focus a little bit more specifically on next year. And I'm going to ask you, it's kind of a two-part question, but they're going to tie together, and you could probably find a way to answer them in one question here. So I'll lay it out this way. A lot of times, especially when prospects come through, young kids come through, and they're ready to make the step to the NHL, or they're looking to make the step at the NHL level, there's a conversation around like the top six or nothing, the boom or bust. You know, this is a guy who he's going to play in your top six, and if he's not playing top 6 minutes, not playing with your top 6 forwards, he should not be in the NHL, and he should be going down to the Marlies. And then that kind of ties into where I'm going with the second part of this question. Is this next season the year that Easton Cowan makes this lineup? So, Steven, I guess kind of piecing this together of my ridiculous way of asking this question where I just gave you two scenarios, and then I'm now going to tell you to give me one answer. Is Easton Cowan looking to make this roster this year? Is there a spot that you find him into this lineup? Like, is it only in the top 6? And if he doesn't, he's got to play for the Marlies. How do you predict this next season, 2025, 2026 year going for the Leafs top prospect?
Could Easton Cowan play in the NHL next year? Absolutely. Should he play in the NHL next year? In spurts, yes. On a full season basis, absolutely not. And for me, I just value playing time and the ability to go out there and get confidence. And Fraser Minton, very different style player, but we saw him play in the NHL last year. Actually had some pretty good looks, but the whole thing for him was just making sure he could play a bigger role with the Marlies, get to know some of the guys who in theory he would move up with. Obviously, him and Grabenkin would have been good together. Both are gone now. I think with Cowan, you just want to go out there and build that confidence. Okay, you've won all this in the OHL, but going to the NHL is a significantly bigger step. And he was able to physically dominate the OHL, but he's not going to be able to do that early in his NHL career because now he's going up against guys who are 6'2", 6'3", and they are professional athletes. They're not guys who might be playing U Sports 2 years down the line. Like, that's the thing about him. That is a massive step forward, and there are very few prospects I think should ever go straight to the NHL. Like, Michael Misa probably will start the year in the NHL for the 2025 draft, but I don't think a single other player should be a full-time NHL player out of this draft. You look at Cowan, it's been a couple years since he was selected, but it's still very early in his development. Like, he was just at the World Juniors a few months ago. Like, he's still that young of a player. And I think going to the Marlies and getting those reps in, playing key minutes right away is big. That being said, if God forbid, there is an injury in the top 6, whether it be Michelli, Nylander, Nyes, Domi, like, I would say there's almost a better argument to put him in one of those roles over someone like Nick Robertson. And I think that's because Cowan's just got all those pro-level tools that, Robertson does to a point. He's been in the NHL last couple of years. But I think Cowan's already better in a lot of aspects there. And So I think for him to start the year in the NHL, I think it almost needs to require an injury, because you're looking at the lines. You got Michelli, you got Nylander, you got McMahon, you've got Yarncroc on the right side. On the left side, you got Nyes, you got Domi, you've got Dakota Joshua, who you just acquired, and Steven Lorenz. So that leaves Nick Robertson as an odd man out. So then where does Easton Cowan come into the play there? So I don't think there's a role for him to start the year unless there's an injury. But if there is an injury, I'm okay with him starting the year in the NHL, get those reps in the big moments, and use that as an opportunity to kind of gauge where his game is. And then when everyone's healthy, send him back to the Marlies and get that playing time, because there's nothing more important for a prospect than playing time. And they need to go out there and feel good about themselves, feel confident. If it means going out there and dominating the AHL, great. I don't think he's going to go out there and dominate in the AHL. It is a hard league for a rookie to come in and look as good as you hope they are. But I still think it's a really good development league, and it's where he should spend the bulk of his time this year.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There's a little bit of an in-depth breakdown of Easton Cowan and what we could potentially expect from him next season with Toronto. I'll just leave it at that. Toronto something. I don't know, Marlies, Maple Leafs, but Toronto. We'll leave it there. Steven, thank you for doing this and taking the time. I know you, over on the dailyfaceoff.com, across basically all of our platforms, wherever you can find it, you have prospect pool breakdowns, prospect lists, top prospect rankings, articles covering summer showcase, just for people out there wondering, what is it that you've got next on the docket? What list could you possibly be coming out with in the near future?
Well, in the next coming days, I will have my top 75 NHL affiliated prospects. I can tell you, I have finalized it all. Easton Cowan's going to be higher than any Maple Leaf I've ever ranked on the list. Okay. So he's been that good. So he will be top 50. I'm excited to see that list come out eventually. And I don't think any Leafs are going to make my top 20 goalie prospects. Sorry, Dennis Hill to be, but I'm not sure you're there yet.
Okay, fair enough. Aktiemov not coming through quite yet, not peeking in. Okay.
No, nobody else.
All right. Well, thanks, Steven. We appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who watched this. If you did enjoy the content, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel, and I want to see in the comments below, what do you think about Easton Cowan? Do you want to see him play on the team next year? Do you think he could fit in the top 6? Let's see it in those comments below. Thank you all for watching. Look forward to seeing you guys on the next Leafs Morning Take with myself and Jay Rosehill coming at you next week. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take, Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos. Make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, and drop a like.